And a jolly good morning and welcome to Brighton on the south coast of Britain. And today I'm going to go on a approximately 90-minute walk from Brighton railway station towards Hove railway station, through Hove to the seafront and back round to Brighton railway station. As I say, it's approximately a 90 to an hour and a quarter walk. So we'll see what we see along the way. Just currently walking up the side of Brighton railway station now and heading towards Hove railway station as our first main port of call on this walk. It's a beautiful November autumn morning here in Brighton. Clear blue skies, not much wind, about 8 degrees. Perfect day for a nice stroll, either around the town or along the beach. Going to do both today, hopefully. Quite a busy town or city, Brighton is. Always lots of traffic, always tons of things going on. Yeah, sounds like New York sometimes. First real place of note and interest, this is called Seven Dials, and well, I'm kind of assuming it's called that because I can count 7 roads coming off this roundabout here, so can't really be anything else. Now the quickest way to Hove railway station would be to go straight on down there. However, according to Google Maps at least, taking that route up there looks like there's more places of interest, so we'll take a little wander down Dyke Road to see what's along there. One way or another, I've been coming to Brighton on a regular basis for 20 years, so I've never actually been in this direction before, so this will be interesting to see what there is here, if I can even get across this extremely busy roundabout. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 dials. They look very nice. I'll have to call in there later on. There's one thing you can say about Brighton. There's certainly a very large selection of independent retailers of all descriptions, particularly bakeries, coffee shops, cake shops, that kind of thing. Alongside, of course, the well-known brands. But Brighton being Brighton, and the fact that there is all this choice, you tend to see and note that the independent retailers do the best trade, because it's different, because it makes a change from going to any other town in Britain and seeing precisely the same shops and retail outlets that frankly just become boring in the end. So it's good to see. It is one of those places where there is a bit of choice, a bit of an alternative to the run-of-the-mill. And I have to say, these vans that are parked up here selling pizzas and burgers do smell very nice. I'm sure they'll be doing a roaring trade when lunchtime actually comes round in about an hour or so's time. So I've probably walked 300 yards, 300 metres or so along Dyke Road from Seven Dials, and then you come to Old Shoreham Road. I'm going to take a left turn and head towards Hove. You can do this by train or bus, of course. If you want to spend, I don't know, £3 or £4 probably. Or you could walk it and get some exercise too. That's the Brighton Hove and Sussex sixth form college. And what a fine looking building that is. I'm sure that's got some history. If anyone knows, throw in some comments. Costs a fortune to live here in Brighton, by the way, if anyone's thinking about it. 1 hour on the train from London, by the sea. While it's a very busy city with lots going on, it's very diverse, very multicultural, and has got a lot of quirky kind of things going on here that appeals to a lot of people, so it makes it very popular. It's also very close to the South Downs and other quieter places that you may wish to get away to from time to time, so it's the perfect storm if you're trying to buy a house. Well commutable to London, of course, and not far away from New Haven ferry port. I'm assuming ferries still go from there, of course. Should do my homework, really. Where you can get ferries to France. Or at least you used to be able to. Chanctonbury Road, that's an interesting Chanctonbury. Lovely houses in Brighton, lovely townhouses. Lots of little cottages, town cottages I'd call them really. It's a city, it's probably not everybody's cup of tea, but it certainly is very popular with very many, which gives you an indication as to why the house prices are so high here. Ferndale Road, Hove. I'm not entirely sure I've crossed the threshold from Brighton to Hove. I suspect it wasn't too far further back down the road there. So now we're in Hove, according to that what looked to be a homemade street sign, but it's probably just another quirky kind of sign made by Brighton and Hove Council, or whoever does that sort of thing around here. I'd have thought on the old Shoreham Road there would have been a sign proudly announcing that you'd entered Hove or left Brighton, or looking back the other way, the vice versa, but it doesn't appear to be anything, not that I saw anyway. That's the railway line that takes you from Brighton to Hove. When you leave Brighton, the train takes a sharp left away from the main line towards London, curls round, goes through a tunnel, and comes out over there somewhere, and then carries on round to Hove. Quite often, if you take a train across the from along the coast from the direction of Southampton, if the train is going to London, then and you want to get to Brighton, you'll probably need to change in Hove and get one of the trains that shuttles its way around from Hove to Brighton. Alternatively, of course, you could get off at Hove and have a walk. I have to say, it's not a particularly inspiring walk along the old Shoreham Road, but the footpaths are quite wide and tree lined, so it's not too bad, but it is quite a busy road. Now, many years ago, Brighton and Hove Albion used to play at the Goldstone ground, and I did go there once back in my youth. I can't really remember how I got to it, because I'd have probably come on the train. I can't really remember now. There's an area up here called Goldstone Road, I think it said on the map. So I'm assuming that the ground used to be around this area somewhere. But it was so long ago, I can't really remember. That is called Goldstone Crescent, not Goldstone Road. So, and there's Hove Park and Hove Recreation Ground up that road. So, yeah. Wondering if that's where the ground used to be back in the day. Again, if anyone wants to leave a note about that, please do. Well, that's Hove Park, and I just had a little look on Google, as you do, and it describes the Goldstone ground as being on Shoreham Road next to Hove Park in a partly residential area. So I'm working on the assumption that that football ground was here at one time, but precisely where, I don't really know. And I'm going to be turning off the old Shoreham Road in a moment and heading down towards Hove Station. So it's probably likely that when I did come here on the train many years ago, I got off at Hove rather than Brighton. Right, goodbye Hove Park, and I suspect the Goldstone ground was just down there a little bit where I can see some sort of flats and apartments that look relatively new. I get a feeling that might have been where the football ground used to be, and they of course sold the land, built houses on it, and then waited an eternity to have a new ground built in Falmer, and lived elsewhere for a little while. Withdean Stadium, I think it was. Anyway, that's enough about Brighton and Hove Albion. Just walking down the road from the old Shoreham Road now, and that at the end of the road there will be Hove Railway Station, first main port of call on this walk. From here we're going to go due south, straight down to the seafront, across the main street in Hove where there's some shops and so on, through the gardens and onto the main seafront. There's a lot of beach huts and so on, and then head back along the coast, along the promenade to Brighton. Not quite as far as the pier today. So we will walk past the West Pier, the one that burnt down. And is a listed building and is currently just rotting into the sea, apparently. I'll put some pictures of that up when we get there. Hand over your mouth, mate. And here it is in all its glory, Hove railway station. This is the back entrance, and according to Google Maps at least, you can walk through to the other side without having to have a ticket, but we shall see. And here is Hove railway station in all its glory. Yes, you can walk through from the other side, and this is how you'd have to actually enter the station and platforms. There isn't access to the platforms from that other side, so you do have to actually walk all the way across. Usual array of stuff around the railway station, including a pub called The Station, surprisingly enough. Southern Railway as it can possibly get at that station. Cafe. Right, so when you come out of Hove railway station, if that's indeed where you arrive, then you just head south. Straight down the road, and there's a number of different roads that you can take a turn down. You essentially keep going in a southerly direction, and eventually you'll come to the English Channel. Just noticed the bus go by which had Brighton Marina on it, so if you well, Brighton Marina is quite a long walk from here, so if that's where you're headed and you don't want to change trains at Hove to get a train to Brighton and then also a fairly long walk, you can get the bus from Hove up to the marina. You can also, of course, get a bus outside Brighton station to Brighton Marina, or indeed walk it, or get on the Volks electric railway from the pier when that's running. there is a Goldston Road as well. That's quite a long way away from Hove Park, so probably nothing to do with the football ground that I wasn't going to keep talking about. I suddenly found myself talking about it again. Anyway, so it's got to the bottom of the gentle hill from Hove railway station. Seems to be an area of bus stops and so on. When you get to this point, you're going to have to decide whether you want to turn left or turn right and then continue in a southerly direction. It doesn't really matter which way you go, because whichever way you go will bring you to the sea. I'm going to take George Street, which appears to be semi-pedestrianised. The usual array of shops and some ones that you may not have seen before. This is the centre of Hove. Centre of the Hove shopping area at least. Not quite so frenetic as Brighton. From our friends from East Europe. There you go, East European market. Trying to keep your animals healthy. Natural pet food. One thing there's for sure plenty of in Brighton is coffee shops and places selling cakes and other sweet treats. I have to keep averting my eyes, otherwise I'll find myself in them. Really is a very, very pleasant morning here in Hove and Brighton. Oh, some lovely smells wafting up and down this street. Girls Back Bakery seems to be doing a decent trade this morning. Right, we've come to the end of George Street, and again you're going to have to do a little wiggle, slightly to the left or slightly to the right, decide which way you want to continue down to the seafront. Didn't know Moss Bros was still in existence. There you go. One thing I've noticed about Brighton and Hove is a number of extremely large dustbins that are here that are available almost on every street. There's absolutely no excuse in this town to throw rubbish on the floor. And to be fair, on the whole, it's not too bad. But if you do, you really, not that there's an excuse anyway, bins or no bins, but there really isn't much of an excuse for it in this town, because they certainly seem to provide plenty of large dustbins, which is good to see. And it's the same over in Brighton as well. I'm just heading down this street now. Looks like we're going to cross over another road, down another small street, and we should be on the seafront. And there's the first glimpse of the sea this morning. Nothing but great food options here. Looks like quite a swell on today as well. Gotta love the sea when there's nice big waves and coming in. It's not particularly windy either today. I can hear the sea already crashing up on the pebbly beach here. Sun shining off the sea. Marvellous. Right, well, I've got to head back towards Brighton now, so this is definitely a left turn this time. Just past that on the street running adjacent to the promenade here. It's the derelict West Pier, and behind that the West Pier, as they call it. And head along the promenade now, right the way back to rather ugly looking building called Prism. I think it's a nightclub and so on and so forth. But yeah, once you get into Brighton, a lot of the old Victorian buildings have been knocked down and been replaced by some pretty ugly looking buildings at times, which is a shame. And the same can kind of be said here down in Hove. What's wrong with those buildings, to be fair? Much nicer. I've had a little bit more time on my hands today. I would walk along the beach, but it's good for your calf and thigh muscles walking on there if you want to get a bit of strength in your legs. It also takes twice as long. Always a good indication of how rough the sea's been, with the amount of pebbles that get thrown up onto the actual promenade. There's quite a lot here at the moment. in the summer months when you walk along here it does get quite busy, and going for a run, roller skates, cycle or whatever can be a bit problematic, trying to avoid large groups wandering along, but this time of year it's pretty good. Not too many about, and the ones that are pretty much doing the same sort of thing, walking their dogs or going for a jog and a cycle ride. So most people do tend to try and avoid each other quite well. Love the sound of the sea. This is called the Hove Lawns or something along those lines. It's certainly a massive grassy area that if you come down here on a nice warm summer's day with a picnic, you wouldn't have difficulty finding somewhere to sit. There's a cafe back there, and I get the feeling that they must serve fish and chips or something like that, because there's a beautiful fish and chip smell wafting in the wind. I can only think it's coming from in there. This is part of Hove. The buildings are more in keeping. Until you get further up there, they start to be a bit 1970s concrete lumps. No cycling. Didn't realise there was no cycling along this bit. Think of it, I can't see any cycles. It does get very busy along here in summertime though, so cycling along here probably would be. There is a cycle track next to the actual road over there, which comes closer to the promenade the nearer you get to Brighton, when you get along there a little way. So it must be just this part of the promenade that's free of cycles. Doesn't it rain? Dustbins everywhere. I've been walking for approximately an hour and a quarter now. I've not exactly been going quickly or, and you know, stopping. Nice smell of weed. Lovely. Yeah, sorry, that put me off slightly. Horrible stuff. Anyway, been walking for approximately an hour and a quarter, and Google Maps is saying it takes roughly about 30 minutes to walk to the railway station from here. Back to Brighton railway station, that is, of course. Starting to get towards the bigger and more expensive and posher hotels as you get along here. We'll come to the Grand Hotel shortly, which is infamous for an IRA bombing back in the 1980s, amongst other things. And if you want to see what a mess they made of that hotel and what it looked like before and what it looks like now, then speak to my friend Google. He'll tell you all about it. Be nice to each other, people. Be nice to each other. I presume that 360 erection is not operating because the viewing thing that goes up and down seems to have been sat there for the last, well, the whole time I've been walking along the front really, so I presume it's shut for winter or shut today or broken down or something. Bit of a monstrosity, it's got to be said, but I guess it makes some money for somebody. Mini Stonehenge. The King's Road paddling pool, which gets really busy in summer. Obviously it's shut now, it's more or less winter time. That's great when you've got some youngsters that may not quite so happy playing on this beach. We're happier playing on a little splash pool over there if you've got the youngsters. It's the old West Pier that apparently can't be knocked down, even though it's just a rusting heap of metal. So it's got its own sort of charm. And those gigantic dustbins again. No excuses here at all. Well, I've seen the beach looking an absolute disgrace before now, after people have had barbecues and things and gone off and left all their bottles and barbecue, throwaway barbecues and all that sort of thing there. It's not really acceptable in my view. There's no excuse for it at all, but there you go. It's looking pretty clean today though. There's the upside down house. Which, well, don't think that needs any further explanation really. Now, maybe the viewing platform is working because almost without me noticing, it's disappeared again. So I presume it's come back down to ground level and people are getting on it. It's not much of a queue, so it is open. wonder why it was stopped halfway. Maybe it stops halfway and goes all the way to the top, or it can only go halfway at the moment. I don't know. Anyway, it's called Brighton I360. And it's on the site of where the entrance to the West Pier used to be. So it all burned down. And the Palace Pier over there in the distance, which is still alive and kicking and fully functional. Although I suspect the fun fair's probably closed now for winter. Certainly during the week anyway. Get some surprisingly good fish and chips on there. And I also had some stir-fry noodles once, which were pretty good. But, which I was surprised about on a pier, but there you go. There's so many places in Brighton to get food that the standards on the whole need to be fairly high, otherwise they'd soon go out of business. I'm going to walk as far as the Palace Pier today. And that's the Hilton Hotel. And right next door, the cream-coloured hotel, is the Grand Hotel. And if you Google IRA bomb Grand Hotel Brighton, you'll see some pictures from the 1980s when the front of that was blown off. And unfortunately, people did die. Not as many as I think were hoped. They've certainly renovated it and put it back to its former glory. But where you see those balconies in the middle, none of that was there. The whole front of the hotel was blown away in an attempt to murder the British government of the time. However, that's history now. Hopefully we've moved on from that kind of thing and it won't happen again. See, huge bins, no excuses people. Find a bin in Brighton, defy you not to. £150 fine if you're caught littering. Should be more than that really, because you really do not have an excuse here. Nice artificial sandy beach. I'm not sure if that's for kids to play in summer or volleyball or what, but there's a cafe there and you can get some vegan ice cream as well. A lot of vegan stuff. If you're a vegan, come to Brighton. Plenty of vegan stuff here. Something for everybody. Yeah, it's strange. It's late autumn, almost winter, and some of these places are closed. I dare say some open at the weekends only at the moment. Some are open now. This is a Tuesday morning. I'm going to take a turn off the promenade now and head back up towards Brighton railway station. It's quite a steep walk up there if you're not as light on your feet as you used to be. Allow plenty of time, especially if you're trying to catch a particular train, but there's a very regular train service into London from Brighton, so if you miss If you miss one, it won't be long for another one. Alternatively, call an Uber. As the sign says, danger. It's too rough out there today for swimming in the sea. Yeah, it's definitely working. The Brighton I360, that's going up. Didn't seem to have many people queuing up for it today, but then again, it's quite a Tuesday morning in November. Right, so on to West Street, and you literally follow this road up the hill straight back to Brighton railway station, past some rather grim looking buildings such as this one. A few old Victorian buildings that's seen better days, I guess, and some that have just completely disappeared altogether. Now, I wonder what they're going to put in there in its place. All the wallpaper on those walls from over the years. That wallpaper can tell a few stories. Anyway, walking up the hill back to the railway station, you'll pass the usual array of places. Huge Great Travel Lodge, just walking past that to the left. Wetherspoons, of course. Quite a few independent shops and cafes. You head over to the right, not necessarily just there, but take a right turn at these traffic lights and head down that way. You'll come to the lanes. That's worthy of a few hours wandering around. Lots of interesting little shops in there. It's going to run me over then. The sun's out, blue skies and a few people wandering about. Even though it's winter, Brighton's not looking too bad today. But come here on a cold, wet, windy January, when there's no one around and everything's shut down, like most seaside resorts or seaside towns, it's not looking at its best. Today, not too bad really on the whole. And this is the last little stretch up to the railway station. You can probably see in the distance there. A couple of minutes walk from here. And that concludes this walk really. From the seafront back up to the station, it's not massively inspiring. It's an array of various shops, cafes, takeaways, anything you could possibly need. Plenty of big bins as well, thought I'd mention that again. And shops to get you shopping from. So that's it. That was approximately 4-mile walk. It's taken over an hour and a half due to my slow progress. There's a Greggs as well. Sausage roll time. Hope you enjoyed this walk. Don't forget to click on subscribe if you want to see some more, and click like if you liked it. If you got this far, then I guess you probably did. That's it. I'm going to go for a coffee and a sandwich, and pat myself on the back that I've managed to avoid going in all those coffee shops, fish and chip shops, and everything else that's available here in Brighton.